This is our second version of the Pong program. What it does is add animation, so let's take a look and then we'll talk about it. Draw the screen, we did that before. Click, and now we get a Pong ball, and then it starts moving. It bounces around. It's not doing anything special. Nothing happens when we hit the player paddles, and we're not keeping score yet. All we're doing is showing that we can move the Pong ball and that we can bounce it. So let's take a look at how that works. Nothing special up here, that's all the same, except we're going to pay attention to this p-ball velocity because I'm going to move this and I'm going to use this constant to set the x velocity and the y velocity for the ping pong ball. The rest of the code is the same until we get down here. This says generate a random boolean. That means generate a random true or false value. Now, if that random true or false value is actually a true, then set x velocity to p-ball velocity, which sets x velocity to 5, which means it's going to go, the ball, when we move it, will go to the right. Now this code doesn't actually move it, it just sets the variables to the movement. But it's going to start out, if random boolean was true, then it's going to start out by moving to the right by 5 each time. On the other hand, if random boolean was not true, that means it must have been false, and x velocity will be set to minus p-ball velocity, which means x velocity is set to minus 5, which means the ping pong ball is going to start by moving to the left. Similarly, we're going to give it a y velocity randomly of 5 or minus 5. About 50% of the time we'll have a y velocity of 5, and 50% of the time we'll have a y velocity of negative 5. So I've set those variables with values between minus 5 and 5. This is new, that's our game loop. We do the usual pause, and this does the actual movement. It says take p-ball, move it by either the 5 or minus 5 for x velocity and the 5 or minus 5 for y velocity, and keep doing that until you hit an edge. The net result is the ping pong ball is going to randomly move to the up and to the right, or down and to the right, or up and to the left, or down and to the left. So we get some variation in our game from one drop of the ping pong ball to another. Now what we want to do is make it bounce on the edge. One thing I need to be aware of is that I can't say equals 0 to test to see if it's at the left edge, because the ball moves in jumps of 5, so it might be at minus 3 and then be at minus 1, and I can't test for equality that way. I can't test for equal, so I say less than or equal to 0. So if the ball's x coordinate is less than or equal to 0, then set it back to the left edge, it was just off the left edge, and bounce it. If its x coordinate plus its diameter is greater than or equal to the width, that means it's at or just off the right edge. So put it at the right edge and change its x velocity. If its y coordinate is less than or equal to 0, that means it's at the top of the screen, top of the game window, or above, slightly above the top of the game window. So move it to the top of the game window and change its y velocity. And finally, if it's at the bottom or farther off the screen than the bottom, farther out of the game window than the bottom, set it to the bottom and change its y velocity. So this moves it, and every time we move it, we need to check for a bounce. If we get a bounce, we need to set it back to the edge, and we need to change the direction. And that is it.